the third day of Christmas, namely 90s gave to me 3 young kids, 2 prophetic dreams, and a refrigerator day bonus.
Wow, I sing so fast. Okay.
Fantastic.
Welcome to Namely 90s. The podcast that takes you back to the time before smartphones, Google, and Y2K. Join your hosts as they relive the pop culture that shaped a generation and the parts that many people wish they could forget. Listen in to the conversation about how the decade defined those who spent their childhood there and how it shaped them as adults. So, turn down the grunge and dial up the internet. Let's get started. It's time for Namely 90s.
That's right. You're listening to Namely 90s. My name's Andrew, and over there is Brandon.
That's me.
Hey. You can find us online at namely90s.com or on Twitter and Instagram at namely90s with a 90s. And you can also watch this show on YouTube at namely90s.com/YouTube. Finally, if you'd like to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/namely90s with a 90s and join one of our punny support levels. Get it? Anyway.
But we don't have puns.
Well, I mean, weren't they? Okay, 90s themed. Anyway, this is the third episode of our 12 Days of Christmas specials, second annual 2021. Right. Yes. And to introduce our guest, let's go to Brandon.
I still don't know what we're tossing. I mean, you have all the information in front of you now.
Because you know the guest and have booked the talent.
Yes. So if you're watching on the video,
I'm just some guy.
We have a nice logo of the 80s and 90s.com or 80s and 90s Uncensored. But joining us today is Jamie Fenderson from the 80s and 90s Uncensored and their brilliant website, the 80s and 90s.com. Milo wasn't able to join us due to one being on our time zone and the other one being 8 hours ahead, I assume. Jamie, hi, welcome.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Hey, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Well, have a good time.
We're excited to have you on. We tried collabing in the past, but I think it fell through. Just like
adulting,
shouting each other,
boring,
right?
Stuff.
No, we want to go back to our youth, the 80s and 90s.
So that's our website, the 80s and 90s.com, which houses kind of all the stuff we do, including our flagship podcast, the 80s and 90s Uncensored, where we take subjects from the 80s and 90s, pop culture and history, and it's about the length. Each episode, weekly episode's about the length of a sitcom. So it's about 20 to 30 minutes, and it's both informative and amusing. And that's kind of what we do. We kind of do what you guys do. We kind of get together and talk about old stuff because new stuff isn't as interesting to us.
Agree.
Perfectly digestible amounts. Yeah. You guys go a different route than us. Where we focus on like a single month out of one of the years. In the 90s, you guys will take a topic and you'll attack it. You have like top 5 lists. What else do you do? That's on your website. You have the top 5 list on your website.
Top 5. We have list of 4. We have like case of where we pit people against each other or whatever. We do retrospectives. We have this thing where we spin a wheel and it gives us the year. Then it gives us like the topic and then it gives us the segment. So it's great when we do like one of them was 1988 fashion and Milo was just suffering. It was awesome. He's like, I don't want to do 1988 fashion. I'm like, the wheels told you had to, bro. You got to do what you got to do.
Meanwhile, our podcast is me remembering nothing. And I think most people think that we don't like each other very much.
Yeah, I mean,
we do.
Are they wrong?
No.
Also, you have like the versus episodes, which I thought was interesting. Bill and Ted versus Wayne and Garth.
Yeah.
Transformers versus GoBots. That's a big one. Andrew, I thought you would be interested in this one. Bobcat Goldthwait versus Gilbert Gottfried.
Oh yeah, that's one I had never considered. Right. I like that.
That's a brilliant matchup there.
Yeah, and oftentimes we'll take a side. So I'll take the side of one, he'll take the side of another, and we got to kind of debate. And then we'll throw a poll on Twitter and let Twitter decide who ultimately won the SmackDown. But we're all winners in the end.
I mean, if you get to talk about the comedic geniuses, or maybe just one comedic genius out of those two, it's.
I feel like Bobcat was red hot back then, but Gilbert's had the longevity, you know.
Well, he was the Aflac Duck at one point, or was that in the 2000s?
No, he was fired from being the Aflac Duck because he's also like a raunchy Twitter guy who got in trouble with the company.
I feel like he got canceled recently too after being uncanceled. I don't know how that works out. Can you be uncanceled?
But that's our podcast. And like you guys know, it's just fun because even though we were around in that age, doing a little bit of research and stuff beforehand, and we can be informative, but we also learn a lot. We learn a lot ourselves. So I've learned a lot doing podcasting about the 80s and 90s, even though I was around. I probably know more about it now that I've looked back.
Oh, I agree. I worked with someone that was a Gen Xer, and I ended up knowing more about the 90s than he did just because I did more research on it more recently than him having lived through the decade as a teen. I was just like, he was like, the 90s movie, The Karate Kid. I'm like, that was from the 80s.
I mean, you learn a lot about it and you start to understand more about it when you actually research it versus having just a sort of vague, but maybe fond memory or maybe a bad memory, frankly.
And then
totally.
Sometimes you just have songs by Mariah Carey stuck in your head because she's on the Billboard chart every month.
Yeah. Now I know what's going to be stuck in my head all night. Thanks a lot, bud.
You're welcome.
When does the podcast come out?
Comes out every Monday.
Nice.
Good Fridays, call. we sometimes we have bonus episodes on Friday, like little tidbits or poll results. We have a secret page that like our magazine subscribers can go to with another podcast called the 80s and 90s 99, which is all about just the year 1999. But you got to have the secret code.
And that's a good reason to sign up for their email magazine.
Yeah. I write it every month. It's just another way to share the love of the 80s and 90s, just like you guys like to do. If I had a life, I might go do something else, but I just write, email magazines every month about the 80s and 90s because that's more interesting to me.
Sounds like a good life to me.
Well, then there's us. We produced 13 episodes in 13 days. Well, we released 13 episodes in 13 days over the holiday break when everyone else is kicking their feet up and eating turkey. So,
see you guys are dedicated though. Because someone's got to be around for the holidays, right?
That's why we appreciate having our guests come on and talk about themselves and their podcast for a little while and watch random shows with us for
absolutely
for the holidays.
Sometimes I find the show watching a bit painful, but I always feel better for it afterward, even if it was terrible. I'm just saying.
Agreed. But before we get into today's excellent series that we picked for the episode, do you have any Christmas or holiday memories you want to share with our listeners that you have off the top of your head? 80s and 90s related? Did you get a Megazord for Christmas?
Well, I kind of got one actually.
Yeah.
So I'm divorced now, but back in 1999, I proposed to my now ex-wife. We're still friends, so it's all good. But I proposed to her in Tokyo, Japan, over KFC dinner on Christmas Eve.
Yes.
KFC dinner. Yep.
For those of you that don't know, in Japan, the marketing company for KFC or KFC's marketing division has positioned themselves as like the American holiday Christmas is celebrated by eating KFC dinner.
It's true. KFC's huge in Japan on Christmas Eve, man.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so when I say that, people look at me like, oh, so you did the fast food proposal thing? That's pretty low class, bro. But I was like, wait a minute. I was in Japan, though. Mm-hmm. That's super high class. That's legit because KFC and Christmas Eve go together. It's a thing in Japan.
You have to reserve that ahead of time. That's very impressive. You pulled out all the stops.
Yeah. but it sounds weird. And I guess it is, but it's not. If you go to Japan, people would just be like, "Oh, that's so sweet." When I tell people that here, they're like,
I'm half
very
Japanese,
classy, bro.
so I understand a little bit of the culture.
You understand? Well, I'm glad that you understand. But that's an interesting Christmas memory for me.
That's awesome. I love that. I mean, nowadays, if you propose in a fast food restaurant and you get blasted about it on Twitter, you get a whole bunch of free stuff. There was a recent article that I was reading about some guy in South Africa was proposed to his girlfriend in I want to say it was a McDonald's or possibly an Arby's or something to that like that. And some photojournalist took a photo from the outside and was like, "Wow, South African men really can gotta find better places to propose." Like, you know, people probably in America were like, "To you, KFC, really?" And then Twitter
really spring for a Popeyes. I mean, come on.
Twitter had a backlash, and he got like their honeymoon paid for, and a car rental, and it was
wow,
yeah, one of those feel good stories. Man.
KFC hooked me up.
And
that wedding's gonna be finger licking good, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
And that's why I've removed feel good stories from my Instagram feed. Speaking of feel good stories,
extra crispy recipe.
Give me a famous ball, please. Thank you.
Shall we talk about two guys, a girl, and a pizza place?
Let's please do that.
So Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, for those of you that don't remember out there, was an American television sitcom. It was from 1998 as a mid-season replacement. It ran for 4 seasons. It starred Ryan Reynolds, Richard Raculo, and Traylor Howard. I know Traylor Howard best as like the second assistant on Monk, I think. And then eventually there are recurring characters, which include Suzanne Cryer and Nathan Fillion. And I think the title is kind of self-explanatory. Eventually it was reduced to just two guys and a girl.
Right.
And I think it started that way in foreign markets, but I stole that all off of Wikipedia, and while I was reading like character biographies, all of the characters are terrible people.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, we'll go into that later, but this is a series that for some reason I have extremely positive memories of, but now watching it, I don't really know why. But specifically, there is this one thing that I'm looking up. It's on tvtropes.org, where Pete, like, he works as a fireman, but he also works as a makeup salesman in season 3. And one of the lines, and I can't even find a reference to it on the internet. Like, I've been looking it up for days, and I finally found that it's in season 3. Like, someone makes a comment that it smells like perfume, and he's like, we work downwind from the Estee Lauder mill. And that joke, like, it's been years, and that joke has stuck with me. And that's like, that joke is all I think of with that show, and it's just it's a good show. I think that it is.
It's certainly entertaining. Jamie, did you remember the show when you picked it out of the list?
Well, here's my exposure to the show. So I at the time I was in the Navy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was a seagoing sailor, and I loved it when we were in port, but when you're at sea, life sucks, right? Because you're in your shelf and you're boxed up with all these guys, and life's not easy. But we did get like satellite TV, like a military channel that would show stuff from back in the States, right? Because I was overseas and shipboard. Like, I didn't even make it back to the States for like 4 years.
Oh wow.
So when you're at sea, you're like, man, life sucks. But then we watch TV. And we get the stuff back from the States, right? And one of those shows was with the two guys, a girl, and a Christmas, or in a pizza place. And it was kind of comforting because, you know, back in the 90s, you had those kind of shows where you had these attractive, quirky, witty people, and they were friends
in their mid to late 20s.
In their 20s. So it was kind of like a little slice of an idealized home. Like, Oh yeah, that I could be friends with those two guys, and that girl's cute and quirky. And you know what? I miss hanging out at pizza places back in the States. I wish I could hang out at pizza places again.
Yeah, remember when there were pizza places you went to and they had arcades in the back? It was the best. Yeah, we had the Alfie's Pizza back on where I lived, and it was like the back room was an arcade. It was awesome, and you played in the arcade.
You know, back where I lived, it was all about the Godfather pizza.
Oh yeah,
that was down by the QFC. In Mill Creek, that also had an arcade and
a little Western Washington throwback right there.
Yeah. Here in Issaquah, we had the round table for a long time.
We had a round table too. Yeah.
And I never ate at a round table.
That round table, like they just closed it down a few years ago, but it looked like it didn't change since like 1983. For real. So in a way, for me, it was kind of nice. Like I'd go there, I'd be like, oh man, it's like 1983 in here because it literally did not change. But my son's like, it's kind of gross in here. What's going on? It's dated. Like, why do you like it so much? It smells weird too. And I'm like, man, this is like
old pizza
school.
parlor
and they have the most. I mean, the one we went to had the most legit salad bar. The pizza places always had good salad bars.
Yeah, they got the best salad bars. Totally.
My parents didn't show up for the salad. It's for the round table. We went to the Pizza Hut over on 132nd.
Oh no.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when they had like Miss Pac-Man arcade cocktail tables at the Pizza Huts.
Ooh.
You know,
and they even had ashtrays on them because you could smoke back in at the Pizza Hut. Eating pizza, smoking cigarettes, playing Pac-Man.
There's an arcade bar in Snohomish. I think they had that exact Miss Pac-Man table there.
That is too funny.
Yeah. But that just unlocked a thing. Like it was all smoking in there. Like there was smoking and non-smoking, but like half the restaurant was just like a chimney stack.
Yeah.
Forgot about that until late 90s.
I think the 90s, it started to kind of, that whole smoking indoors thing started to go away. But I remember even the 80s, like my mom and grandma were smoking indoors all the time. Just like Patty and Thelma, Patty and Thelma just smoking all the time. And my mom had a little case for her cigarettes, a little leather case. It was kind of a fashion accessory. Put a lighter and little cigarettes in there.
She fancy.
Just smoking all the time. And everywhere you could smoke in the McDonald's.
People were under the delusion. People were under the delusion that like having a non-smoking section made a damn bit of difference.
Yeah,
like we're all in the same box. Damn, you're smoking.
Yeah, not everything about the 80s was good, man. Not everything about the 80s was good. But yeah, that was my exposure.
I was just gonna say, I remember my parents would come out from the bar, you know, back in like the early mid 90s, and they'd have these brown kind of matte leather jackets they had to hang up in the garage for like 3 days to air out. That was always my favorite.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, who has a smoking jacket anymore? Like,
but yeah, that was my exposure. This show was one of my Navy comfort shows where like you're at sea, life sucks, but you kind of have these cool shows to like make you feel like you're hanging out at a pizza place with some cool people back in the States.
That's awesome.
Imagine if you were at sea right now and the only show you could get was The Big Bang Theory. I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, I hate that show like horribly, but that would be. Ooh.
That seems to be our recurring Christmas theme this year. We hate The Big Bang Theory.
Well, if that's all you got and you're at sea, maybe you just like learn how to read a book.
Yeah.
You know, read a book now. I'm done with TV.
You would just come off the boat laughing like a maniac nonstop because of the laugh track.
Yeah.
It haunts you in your sleep. So did you remember this episode specifically then when going back to watch it, or did it come back to you eventually? I remember
this one specifically, but it's a good episode. I like it.
I feel like halfway through for me, something clicked, and I was like, I do remember seeing this at some point.
Well, I think I remember because what's the character Peter?
Pete, yeah,
he kind of wants to date the older chick, right?
Mm-hmm. The traffic lady.
The traffic lady. She's kind of older, and back then when because I was probably about I'm probably about their age back then. And you're like, oh, he's going to get a cougar. He's going to get himself a cougar. And now I think, you know, if I got a cougar now, it's just me getting with someone my own age.
Isn't that strange? Yeah.
It's not a cougar anymore. It's just like dating a gal with my own age.
Hey, at least you get a discount at Denny's if you stay with someone older.
I mean, if we're being technical, she might have been a Mellencamp. And
yeah, sucking on a chili dog.
So the one thing is, like, I went with Brandon. Although I have fond memories of this show, I remember literally nothing about the plot, the backstory, any of the characters. I was super confused when I, like, all of a sudden we were just in a hospital. I was like, what is this?
I was like, Ryan Reynolds is a doctor and a pizza.
I think he's technically a med student, but he's wearing a long coat, which is not accurate.
Oh, so I thought he was a nurse, because I forgot all about this.
I thought he
show
started
too.
like I started out, I'm like, he's a nurse, but he has to be a doctor, right?
Yeah, I was reading through. He's a med student.
Med student,
but med students don't wear long coats, so that is an inaccuracy. So thank you very much.
He's doing his rotations then. So it opens up on what they're all just talking. They're like, literally, they come in and set up the entire episode at the beginning. What's her name? Justine? No.
The woman. She's planning a Christmas party.
Right.
And if she does a good job, she thinks she's going to get a big bonus.
Sharon.
She wants to have she's going to get a big promotion if she throws a wicked Christmas party.
Yep.
But all of the normal Christmas entertainments booked.
All of the little people she wants to hire for elves are booked.
When there was a little people joke within the first minute, I was like, welcome back to the 90s.
Yeah, you can't do that anymore.
It's like, you're no done. Fat jokes, no homophobia, at least in that first section. But we honed right in on the little people jokes. So that was
leprechauns and elves. So good. I did like, he was like, let me give you a Christmas present. And they wrote an IOU a scarf and then gave him the IOU.
And then the guy cuts off her little like ball in the end of her hat.
Yes.
Gives her a thing. I owe you an apology.
Well, but once again, it does that thing that all TV shows do, which is like, how is any pizza being made, or is anyone being served in this establishment?
Yeah. It's just a setting, right? Nobody's working.
I was reading through it.
Nobody's doing anything like productive. They're just talking and chatting.
For some reason, from the title of the show, I assumed one of them owned the pizza place.
Me too. They just work there.
Yeah, they just work there. The guy, the owner, like, was in season 1 and then just disappears for the rest of the series.
It's probably a drug front anyway. Like a money laundering
that makes
operation.
Sense, no one's like making pizzas.
Maybe they're selling marijuana.
Oh, the Mary Jane. So the weather lady comes in, or the traffic copter lady comes in for her pizza order. Apparently her personal assistant had quit recently. So Pete gets the idea to hit on her by becoming her personal assistant for a day and buy Christmas presents for her.
Yeah, personal shopper.
The thing that they implied throughout this entire episode is that she made like a shit ton of money, but I'm like, I don't think a traffic correspondent makes like a lot of money.
Right?
No, because she lost her personal assistant, but she still has her nanny.
Yeah.
And like her house is like 90s fancy. Or her apartment.
Yeah, it's 90s fancy. But I don't know, like I don't think traffic reporters make that much.
No.
Like, I know you're kind of locally famous, but you're not like Angelina Jolie, like, famous.
Come on, maybe was she piloting the helicopter as well?
No, it's just reporting.
Okay.
And now you just have Google Maps. Like, you don't even need the helicopter anymore. But that was a time where the only way you could know the traffic was by actually seeing it. Like the traffic copter thing it's kind of crazy that was real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know?
I also, another thing that I was surprised was real was she's like, I'm sorry, I don't have any money, or I left my checkbook at home. I'm all out of checks.
My checkbook.
I was like,
I can't pay the pizza because I left my checkbook at home.
Just Venmo me.
Yeah. Like, credit cards existed in the 90s. I guess they probably didn't take them.
But like, if you only used checks, don't you think you'd know how many checks you had left?
Yes.
Well, and then you definitely are kind of a cougar, because that's kind of a little lady thing to do. Is like, I forgot my check.
They have like a long cigarette on the stick. You're like, I'm out of checks.
Oh, Cruella DeVille says she's out of checks.
but Pete counters with his own older person joke with the hands across America. Like that's so like early 90s, or not even early 90s. How this was 1999, I think it came out.
Yeah, 98, 99, yeah, 99.
Yeah, like Hands Across America. How long ago was that? Wasn't that like?
I don't even know what it is.
Well, yeah, long enough ago that I don't even get the reference.
Everyone joined hands to make a chain across America.
That's one of those things that was funny at the time, maybe, but now people are like, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah, it's you hear it like every so often, like a 90s movie or an 80s movie. It's like, oh yeah, I did Hands Across America. It's like, I don't know what that is.
Dionne Warwick was singing about like kids or something. Who knows, man?
Exactly.
Save the children.
Sarah McLachlan starts playing in the background. It took place in 1986. Where
timely joke.
Joined hands all across America for 15 minutes. Yeah.
Wow.
Let's see where else so he becomes her personal shopper. Sharon? I keep screwing that up.
Sure.
The girl.
Sharon is there suddenly with her Santa hat fixed. I assume she just constantly puts on a new Santa hat every time Ryan Reynolds cuts the palm off of it.
I don't remember her being as annoying as she is.
Was she
like? I found
annoying?
I found her super annoying.
I think they made her annoying in this episode so that when she gets her comeuppance on,
you're like, ha, sucker.
You're gonna be the gardener.
Yeah, she determines that she's going to get the 12 Days of Christmas and bring it to the party, which I feel is another cliche in Christmas specials where, we have to get the 12 Days of Christmas for the party or else it's going to be unsuccessful, or that's how I'm going to propose to my wife. It's you run out of things to do when you're writing Christmas episodes.
Yeah. Hey, at least it wasn't a Wonderful Life ripoff. So we've got that going for us.
More often than not, it will be a Wonderful Life ripoff. So I did write at some point, and I appreciate that this is an original story that probably would have worked any time of the year.
Well, why this all is going on with the traffic lady, though, mm-hmm. Ryan Reynolds is having a problem with that old dude. Remember?
Oh, yes.
That grouchy old dude, like, I want my food. I want my lunch.
Nothing touching.
I don't want my green beans touching my meatloaf.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call my lawyer. They're going to sue you. It's just being a total old geezer pain in the ass, right?
My daughter, the lawyer.
So that whole joke, that was the only thing that actually made me laugh out loud. Because initially, like, the guy, every time he came out, I was like, this guy's so annoying. Like, this is horrible. And then the kid later, we'll come to this, but he's like playing pinball and it like messes up or something. And then the old guy's like, you think that's bad? You should try the pizza. And I laughed out loud at that. I have no idea why.
Yeah. And the only reason he was there is because of like he was like, hey, I'm a medical person. I'm not your waiter.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes to the pizza place. He's like, now you're my waiter.
Like he asked around at the hospital, hey, how can I find this guy outside of work? And they told him that he works at a pizza place, and he stalked him.
Yeah, that's kind of when you put it that way, it's kind of creepy.
I mean, I guess what is it? The medical privacy doesn't work both ways,
right?
Yeah. Yes. So we find out that the traffic lady has a 10-year-old son. She referred to the nanny as her lover as a joke.
Speaking of that, I thought for the first part of this episode, they were playing to She Thought He Was Gay. Did anyone else get that vibe?
Yeah. Yes. Especially since that's a very common 90s thing.
Yeah. Like he was shopping for her. He was like,
oh my God, that was the greatest day ever.
Fairly stereotypical, but like I was getting like it was going that direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then it made a left turn toward the 10-year-old kid. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm surprised actually.
I don't think it was a left turn. I was like, either she's married or she has a kid. And it's all like some giant misunderstanding.
Right.
And, then you see the nanny who I thought was her teenage daughter. When
Me
she
too.
walked by.
I thought daughter. Yep.
Yeah. And I was like, that's creepy. You called her your lover. And then,
oh boy. Yeah.
And then the 10-year-old son shows up. And then we cut to commercial. No, and it like becomes the next day, and they're in their apartments. I think it's Pete and Berg's apartments. Sharon's there already.
They're having like a big brunch or something. They
giant
something
breakfast. Yeah, like
gigantic breakfast.
Did it kind of seem like the Seinfeld apartment? Like
it did.
Yeah.
It's a similar layout for sure.
This takes place in Boston, supposedly, right?
I mean, fantastic Boston accents all around.
yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was strange that Pete kissed Sharon. It was the side of the head, but it was still like, is that something everyone does with their female friends that they've dated briefly? Did no one else catch that?
I did not see that.
He walks into the scene.
The intro, they're both kissing her. It's kind of like a threesome suggested.
It's a little much
going on, right?
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
fair. That's fair.
2 guys, a girl. In the back of a pizza place.
This isn't what I ordered.
They're going to warm up the walk-in for sure.
I'm sorry, I forgot my checkbook. Is there another way I can pay?
She's just wearing the Santa hat. Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, it was, for some reason I said Ryan Reynolds is a Canadian treasure. He must have made a joke.
He is. He's good.
So let's see. She it jumps forward in time. They're at the pizza place. The helicopter lady brings in her 10-year-old son. And I was like, so you bring your 10-year-old son to the man you spent a day with as your personal shopper that you're attracted to. Okay. And then she calls what they have a relationship. So I said, calling the one day you spent with a guy you were paying as a personal shopper a relationship. And
you had to ask if he was off the clock before he tried to kiss her. That's awkward. I'm sorry.
And then leaving your child with the guy who you were paying for a day to be your personal shopper at his pizzeria that he works at, not his pizzeria.
Nowadays, not happening. Shouldn't be happening.
It shouldn't have been happening back then either.
Right.
Yeah. Now we have something called the sex offender registry. So that's, just saying.
Just throw an Apple tag on your kid and you'll be fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
If you're going to do the whole I got a kid thing, like maybe 2 dates.
Yeah.
Or a couple dates more. I mean, you had 2 dates and then it's like, I've got to tell you something.
Was it technically 2 dates since they did the personal shopping day that she paid him for, and then the same evening at the award ceremony or whatever that she also paid him to join her for?
The guy sounds kind of like a gigolo to me. Right. I'm just saying, he's getting paid a lot to hang out with this gal.
Were we missing some subtext?
He's an escort.
Yeah. You could have a 10-year-old son as long as you keep paying up. I don't care.
Yeah. Ooh, that'll be extra. Yeah.
Yeah. But he doesn't want to he doesn't really think he wants to get in a relationship with her though, because he's kind of afraid of the gal having a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think like the one problem I had is like, okay, she has a kid, she doesn't have AIDS. Like, let's calm down a little bit. It was like, let's just relax a little. It's a kid.
As a single, never married guy, I understand that impulse. It's the same thing with just like dating someone my age right now, because it's like ticking clocks and whatever. It's like I don't want to waste their time. I don't want to like form an attachment with the child and then be another father to walk out on his life.
That is a bit of a problem. There is that like pressure.
But then again, this is all formulated from watching these shows in the 90s where that is the premise of the episode.
Yeah. So. I think it's kind of silly actually, because I think most people, like, I got a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I might date or something, whatever. But like, I don't even like, you're not even going to meet my kid really until like, if we get together and we have this kind of more long-term relationship, okay, let's talk about it. Right. But if I went on like 2 dates with you in the same day, and then
you're not going to leave your child with them.
You're not going to meet my kid. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little odd.
And you're not going to let them take your child sledding. Yeah.
She's paying him to do everything else. Might as well pay him to be a babysitter too. He's a full-time employee of this super rich traffic reporter.
I love that he didn't even say yes to it. It was just Ryan Reynolds' Berg character that was like, yes, you should let your child stay here at the pizza parlor.
We should have a whole line of fan fiction where like she forgets to give him a 1099 and she gets a bunch of tax penalties. Great.
If he just filled out his W-2 when or W-4 since he would be a private contractor.
Oh gosh, yeah.
So they took the kids sledding, and they do the thing where it's like, we can't pay to actually go outside and shoot you sledding down a hill, so we're gonna just watch you off screen. And,
yeah, those use sounds.
Look, it's a cow.
Oh no, he's about to hit the cow.
You can hear it. Oh, look out for that cow.
So like later when they showed the kid after he ran into the cow, my mind was going to, he's covered in cow poop, because I was guessing he went into the back of the cow. But no, he was just like injured. I was like, oh man.
Yeah, I was thinking more like Sonny Bono in Trees, not
I hate
sitcom.
manure.
Yeah. Yes, Back to the Future.
He does this thing.
Yes.
You know?
And that kid goes back in time to become Biff Tannen.
Like the kid is visibly fine, and a medical professional has assessed him. Why are they driving him to like a trauma center?
He said bruised ribs, and
oh no, they'll just heal on their own.
Well, yeah. Well, you don't have to manipulate traffic. Probably illegally.
Yeah, that's why not use the helicopter?
Yeah.
Also, like, I get it because it's not his kid, but like, isn't there going to be a medical bill?
Yes.
Saying.
Well, she could pay for that. I'm sure.
Yeah,
she
comes out of
probably lose
his
her job
paycheck.
though, because she's up there. She's like, okay, do everything. Listen to the radio. Do everything that I say, but just do the opposite of everything I say. And then she totally like wrecks traffic just to get her kid to the hospital. But it's not like he's having an aneurysm or he's got like bleeding to death. He got a couple bruised ribs. Like, come on, lady.
I think she should
totally
lose her
abused
job.
your power.
The whole time I was thinking she should lose her job. This is an abuse of power.
Yeah. And then and then you don't have your personal shopper, your nanny, all this stuff that you have because you just abused your power.
You're on the street.
$5 million a year they're paying you to be a traffic reporters.
And she took away Sharon's bonus because Sharon followed. I think it was the backstory was the previous year she had listened to the traffic report and it saved her getting to the party on time. And this year she listened to it again with a bunch of birds in her car. So more
fan fiction. Sharon actually comes up with a plot to like destroy the traffic reporter chick, and there's this big rivalry. It's like a thriller movie, like a made-for-TV thriller movie. It
starts like that.
I thought you were gonna say she attaches the birds to her car and lifts the car up towards the helicopter.
No, I'm thinking less fantasy, more thriller, like psychological thriller.
So it's like a rivalry, and then she learns that she's on the lam from the IRS, and then they start to work together, and then they rob a casino. I don't know. I'm just
It's Ocean's 2.
I think our version of things is far more interesting, gentlemen. We should pursue this with due diligence.
I mean, if I'm writing a spec script, that's what I'm writing. So everything gets resolved. The old man apparently was lying about having a daughter and a grandson and family, which.
Because I thought Ryan Reynolds was going over there to light him up for lying, and he just like goes in and they have a nice pizza together.
Did you not read?
That was very nice and Christmassy.
No, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't expect that.
That was very nice and Christmassy of him to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Ryan Reynolds, he obviously is Canadian because he's got a good heart and he's doing something really nice, because I know I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, he's alone. No shit, he's alone. He's a horrible old man, and you know what? He deserves to be alone. And I'm gonna send him a pizza, but it's gonna be like
everything's overlapping.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna hang out with that old grouch, but he's a good guy, and I appreciate that. That's very warm, fuzzy action right there. Very warm, fuzzy action.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he was the old man in Home Alone where like he looked scary but was actually a nice guy. The old man was just a giant dick.
Yeah.
Well, I'd rather you just look scary.
Yeah.
Right.
and throw salt on the sidewalk. And
yeah.
I don't have to worry about it.
If you're coming to my restaurant harassing me, like, no.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's just weird, though. See, he's going, I know it's supposed to be good feelings and stuff, but I think this guy's stalking you.
Yeah.
He, by definition, he is stalking.
Yeah, like I asked where you were.
And harassing.
Not at the, harassment and stalking. This guy's dangerous.
Yeah. But Ryan
Reynolds,
Reynolds
you see when he opened the door, he's like, what are you doing? He's kind of smiling like, what are you doing?
I suppose you want to come in. Oh God.
Yeah.
What? No. Yes. What?
Dude is creepy.
I did like the
creepy. Creeps me out, man.
I did like the initial slam in his face.
Yeah.
just to reiterate that he's a giant dick. Let's see. So that I think that wraps up all the storylines. Sharon has a freak out at the pigeons that she trapped from her apartment ledge that she put in her car. And then the post or the tag, I don't remember what we called those in the 90s.
During the credits, they would play a little bit of a clip.
They weren't post-credit scenes, but they were. They bought Sharon a red scarf as an apology for her not getting her bonus.
No.
And then they were at the same sledding place, and she's suddenly the guy let the bulls out into the pasture, and of course she's headed in that direction and runs into bulls.
So here's my question.
Red scarf.
There's like an initial oh, and then there's a delay, and there's a second oh. What do we theorize the second oh was about? Because my mind started going places, and it was not good.
Well,
did she just get hit again?
The charging bull, yes.
Yeah, maybe.
If your mind
I kind of like your theory about the head and the plugging up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So you got maybe that happened first, and then maybe she got rammed, and I don't know,
by another one.
I feel like she probably would have needed to be like airlifted to the hospital.
So you're saying she got inserted into the poop pile of a bull, removed herself, used her red scarf to clean it off, which enraged the bull because of the red, and then she got charged and hit by the bull a second time.
I think that's what happened. That sounded like what happened to me.
We're fixing the scripts. We got this.
Now we know. Now we know. We have the true fact. We have the facts.
All right. So
now the fun of watching Brandon read the outro and try not to say the wrong names and episode numbers.
Oh, did I not replace it? Okay. First, why don't we go around and have our final thoughts of the episode while I fix my own.
I think what I told you is it's a sad state of being when the only way to watch a show is on Daily Motion as a rip from the WE network. Like, I feel like this show deserves to be on a streaming service. When you look at some of the crap that's on streaming, it should be there. That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
I agree. This is Navy comfort TV for me. Very 90s because they're very hip and young, and the 90s always had a cool place to hang out, whether it's a coffee shop or a record store or a pizza place. So I want to find a place like that in real life.
Absolutely. It's not something they do a lot of anymore on TV. There's still a few holdover shows I feel like that do it, but it's not common.
I mean, just like the initial start of the episode was just like in medias res, and like you should already know what's going on between all these characters, and it's like you just popped in on a random scene. And it's like that's so 90s sitcoms.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I thought it wasn't great.
No,
but it was refreshing to have an original story that wasn't like some weird riff. Like it was nice to just have. Like I said, you could have pulled out the Christmas elements and had this just been a regular story. And we don't get that a lot for the Christmas specials that we watch. So it was just a nice break from another version of It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh gosh.
And that is it for this holiday edition of Namely 90s. Tune in tomorrow for the no, Andrew was right. Tune in tomorrow for our Christmas Eve episode for the 2021 12 Days Christmas specials. Thank you so much to Jamie of the 80s and 90s.com, the 80s and 90s Uncensored, which is their flagship podcast, for coming on. I'll let our listeners know where to find you, Jamie.
Yeah, you can find us at the 80s and 90s.com or on Twitter at the 80s and 90s.com. And those are two places we hang out most.
All right. And as always, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Namely 90s with 90s, or find our personal accounts at bschwitty and at Namely Andrew, and tell us what you want us to talk about on future episodes. If you'd like to support the show, please check out our Patreon at patreon.com/Namely90s, also with a 90s. Finally, you can also contact us through our website, namely90s.com. Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, A Pizza Place, Deezer, TuneIn, iHeart, and wherever you get your podcasts from. I'm Brandon. That's Andrew. Thank you one final time to Jamie from the 80s and 90s.com. The 80s and 90s Uncensored. Oh, thank you.
Yes.
And we'll catch you all tomorrow for day 4 of our 12 Days of Christmas specials. Freeze frame.